Welcome back to Ask Lee a Wednesday. Alright, so if you have any questions, please leave them, or questions that you want me to answer on these videos, then please leave them in the comments to the Ask Lee videos, and I will get around to them on the Wednesday slots. Alright, so 2 questions again today. The first one is from Roop. Can I use the same sigil I've created repeatedly? Could I make one for protection and use the same sigil for protection whenever in need? Yes, you can. Now, there is a bit of confusion regarding this, and the main reason for that is because when we first learn sigil magic, or when I am teaching sigil magic, for instance, to somebody who is new to it, the basic method is to go through the process of the creation and then the launching activation, and then you destroy it and forget about it. The reason for that is to prevent the conscious mind from continually trying to dig at the sigil itself. The sigil is a symbolic language which gets transferred to the unconscious mind so that the unconscious can use it, work with it. If the conscious mind comes in, it starts nagging at it and just cancels the whole thing out usually. So for anybody beginning with sigil magic, it's usually a good idea to just destroy and forget about it. But you can create a symbolic representation of something such as protection and use it over and over and over again. You'll find this with amulets, especially if you go into Hebrew magic, Kabbalah. There's a lot of old Hebrew amulets that are still used today, and you find them all over the world as Egyptian amulets and talismans, from Europe, everywhere. You have these symbols, and you can go through the grimoires as well, into the Solomonic grimoires with the planetary sigils and things like that, are all symbolic representations of something. They often have a specific manner in which they are created, to draw specific powers to them. Hebrew amulets, for instance, would draw in the energies and powers of angels and such things. But, coming back to our own sigil creation, if you do go into amulets, one of the good things about the amulets is that those have been used by thousands and thousands of people for a very, very long time. So they actually hold the energy of, almost like an ancestral energy. Everybody who's used it, their energy gets sort of imbued into that symbol. So there's a lot of power behind those things. But using your own sigils repeatedly, we do it all the time. And it can be done quite easily. One of the tricks here is to try and train yourself so that when you do look at the sigil or the symbol, you aren't lusting after results. That's the main thing. When the conscious mind starts to see it and view it, it starts lusting after results, which often cancels everything out. So that's the main thing, is to try and train the mind to stop lusting after the results. You look at the sigil, it's just a symbol that represents something. But over time, that sigil can gain its own power. The constant use of it, it gains more and more power as you carry on using it. So, you can take those sigils, you can place them on various things. You can put them on, put them above your door frame, above your front door, for instance. If it's protection for nightmares, against nightmares or night terrors or something like that, you can sew it onto your pillow. So you can use the same sigils over and over again, and there's various ways you can do that. So yes, absolutely, you can do that. I'm finding it very difficult to actually find my words today, so excuse me if I'm rambling a bit. The next one was from Occultista. As a contrary to the most known classical grimoires like Goetia or Grimorium Verum, what is the less known book containing spirits and their descriptions that you may consider good to read, in general valuable? A bit of a difficult one, because if we look into the grimoires, you know, they all come out of that Solomonic tradition, and that has been skewed very much by a Christian perspective, or Christianized perspective. So, you know, when we're doing research into those specifically for the demons and the descriptions of them, it's going to be skewed quite badly, really. I was told recently by one of the spirits that those traditional representations, you know, Boone, for instance, is the dragon with the 3 heads, old man, a dog, and a griffin. Those traditional representations do hold some basis, but it doesn't mean that the spirit's going to appear as that. You will find that if you or somebody working with a spirit reads that description and thinks it is going to appear like that, it probably is going to appear in that form. But it's not necessarily, those descriptions are not necessarily how they appear. It's more of a symbolic representation of who they are, you know, what stations they hold, what they can do, their office. That's the word I'm looking for. And, you know, it also holds symbolic representation of the mythology behind them and things like that. So, personally, I would suggest, you know, you can read the descriptions of what they look like and what they do and everything else, but take it with a grain of salt. You may often find that when you call a spirit for a specific purpose, it can do that thing, that purpose. But if you actually sit down with that spirit and say, what can you do? You may find that they can do a lot more than what's described in the grimoires. So I would say the best book you can use is the one you write. Speak to the spirits, find out what they can do, you know, where their powers lie, where their offices, and find out for yourself what they look like. And when you do that, try to not hold any preconceived notions about what they would look like. Try and sort of create a blank slate so that they can come through and they can show you how they want to appear to you. And if it's not a pleasing sight for you, then you can ask them to change it, and they will. If it's done respectfully, they will. They'll have no problem with that. You know, because they want to interact with you. They want to help you. So they're not going to come with these grotesque appearances that make you fearful, or you find vile, and you sit there and you can't really work with them because you don't want to look at them. That's not going to work. That's not going to create a good relationship. So that's, you know. But as I said, if you're expecting that, if you're expecting a particular thing, a particular manner in which they present themselves, you're probably going to see that because that's what you're expecting. That's the mirror you're holding up to the spirit. So you kind of create that image yourself. They don't do it. You do it for them. Yeah, I'm definitely rambling today. So yeah, I would say the best book would be the one you write, through your own experiences. I would suggest looking into, again, S. Connolly's books. You know, she's written the Demonolatry Goetia, which kind of goes through all the Goetic spirits and gives the traditional description, or the office, what they do, and then gives her description. So it's usually one of my go-to places when I'm doing some research on a Goetic spirit. But other than that, look through all of her other books. You'll find them extremely useful, extremely valuable, and extremely handy for doing your research. I would also suggest demonsanddemonolatry.com. It's a site that's been put up by Satan and Sons. It's kind of like a demonic encyclopedia. What they do with each one, and it's focused a lot on the Goetia, but there are a lot of other demons that they've put in there because they've worked with them. But what they do is they'll usually pull out the textual descriptions from the different grimoires, and then also there's some Michael Ford in there. I'm not a Michael Ford fan myself, but they'll put in the Ask Goetia, they'll put in Tigaboo, and then they'll put S. Connolly's as well, usually. However, if they have specifically worked with a spirit, they will write a whole page with their own interaction and what they found and what answers they got. So very good to go and research some of those spirits in there as well. And also V.K. Johannam. V.K. Johannam's website, he's kind of done his research into all various different places, like I'm doing on the Saturday videos, Demon of the Week, and just kind of pulling information from various different places and, again, his own experiences. So those are my go-to places for doing research on demons. So it's S. Connolly, V.K. Johannam, and Satan and Sons, their Demon and Demonolatry encyclopedia. But if the answer you were looking for was what ancient text you can have a look at, I actually wouldn't suggest any of them, to be honest with you. As I said, they are very Christianized, they are Christian influenced, and they come from that perspective. And I don't think they didn't have any high respect for any of those spirits, so kind of painted them in bad light, really. Mostly, anyway. But the obvious one is the one you write, your own experiences with the spirits. Just sit down with them and talk to them. I think we come from this. Well, a lot of us come from this background ceremonial magic background, which again is very Christianized. Ceremonial magicians will usually view the spirits from that perspective, that these demons, because they're called demons, they are out to destroy you. That's not my experience at all. But we come from that background because when we start doing our research down those avenues, those are the ones that usually pop up the most. So Golden Dawn, Crowley, and that whole area of ceremonial magic. And that has a strong emphasis on doing the grimoire, the Solomonic work as it's written. And it's not the approach that I like to take. But with that approach, I think a lot of us kind of feel like the whole thing is based on you want something, therefore you do this ritual in order to catch this spirit and tell them to go get it for you. That seems to be very much the general approach that a lot of people are coming or finding their direction in. that makes sense. I don't like that approach myself. I think the best approach is to create the relationships like you would with people, like you would with anybody you come into contact with. You know, you meet somebody at a party, or you meet somebody at the supermarket, and you kind of click with them, and you get their contact details, and you start talking to them. You know, it's not a case of you are wandering through the supermarket, you see a person who has a sign that says, I can do X, Y, and Z. So you grab them by the collar, drag them home, and tell them, I want this, you go fetch it for me now. You don't do that with people. Why would you do that with spirits? What you do is you build relationships with people. And sometimes those relationships don't work out. That's fine. Sometimes they do, and it becomes a long-term friendship or romance or whatever that relationship develops into. And it's the same with the spirits. We should be creating these relationships with them and talking to them, finding out who they are, what they like. You know, we make offerings and we kind of put something on that we think they might like. That's fine, that's okay. Until they tell us, we don't really know. So you can put that offering down and then ask them, do you like this? And they'll say yes or no. If they say no, you go, okay, that's fine. What would you like? Ask them what they like. You know, ask them what they can do, what they kind of like, you know, you would ask a person you create in a relationship, what do you do for a living? What color do you like? What foods do you like? This is how we would create relationships with people. So why aren't we creating the same types of relationships with the spirits? We are all spirits at the end of the day. So, all right, I'm definitely rambling now. Definitely rambling. But I think you get my point here. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there. I did notice you've got a few other questions which I've got lined up. So I think we'll carry on with the theme sort of thing, and I'll answer those questions in future videos. All right. So as I said, if you have a question you would like me to answer on these Wednesday videos, please leave those questions in the comments to the Ask Lee videos, and I will add them. Okay, that's it. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Cheers for now.